Let me go ahead and get that going. Okay, hi everybody. My name is Cynthia Henry. We're going to talk about Word today, and specifically how to use the formatting templates and manual from the thesis and dissertations at graduate school that they have set up for you, and how to kind of get those all working together. But also, several of faculty have mentioned that they would like to use the track changes option when they're giving you feedback in Word. And so that is something else. That's our second option that we're going to be learning today. I'm pretty informal, so if you have a question, feel free to unmute yourself or just sing out. And sometimes it's easier to answer the question right in that moment. And then we're just going to kind of get into it unless anybody has any questions. Okay, so then some things that I want us to kind of all get on the same page with is that I'm going to use, I think I will minimize us, move us over here maybe. Maybe I should put that there. Sorry. Is it this? Nope. All right, I will put that over there. Okay, so one of the first things that I'm going to use quite a bit that I find when I'm editing or looking for something is I'm going to use, I happen to be on a Windows, but if you're on a Mac, you could do this too. I'm going to use Control F, and it's going to open this box up here at the top. And if you're a Mac, that's just going to be Command F. Now, I know some of these are going to be pretty simple things that we may already all be using, but I just want to make sure that we're all using those as we'll use them in the workshop together. So if I was going to use this box to search for something here on the website, you can use it here or in Word or in a PDF. And I can just type in something like Cynthia and it will find my name and it will highlight it. Or even as simple as something as like the. And I can move through these. You can see the first one is part of the thesis, and the second one is where my room is located, my office, and I can toggle. And whatever is the bold color is where you're landing. Let's see if we can find one more that might be helpful to see that. I'll do Word, and so here we are. So if I move down, you can see it's on 5 of 6. Then I can move back up to the top, bottom. It's on 6 of 6, and then the top will be the top of that. So sometimes that is very useful, especially in PDFs. You're just trying to find something, or as we move through these documents today, I might really be using that a lot to find the piece of the manual that I need to look up. So I wanted you to be aware of that. The other thing that we're going to use a lot today is copy and paste. And again, that is just Control C and Control V. So Control C on a Windows will copy something for you. Control V will paste it for you. And the same with Mac, it's Command C and Command V is the same thing. And as we use that the first time, I'll try to remind us all of that. Okay, so now let's kind of orientate ourselves to this page. This is the formatting manual, and I have it up here as well. And then our checklist that was just updated in 2021. These are things that I got from the graduate school, and we can kind of look at those links as well. And then we're going to use those as we move through here. So I'm going to kind of move this right here. Yeah. Okay, so then let's go ahead and look at the checklist. I have it set up there a second, but this is a really good tool that you can find because it really will help you before you submit your thesis or dissertation. Really go through here because that's exactly what's going to happen when you submit it to the graduate school. You're going to put your name here, you're going to put the semester that you're graduating, and then the reviewer is going to sign it and then check that all these things are happening. And then they actually use the bottom of this page to make notes if needed, like, oh, the page numbers are not right, or whatever is not right. And so if you just go through here and make sure that they're all checked, then you would be good to go. And that might alert you to one of the issues that maybe was not clear in the templates. So just getting back on our website that we're going to use a little bit, our Word LibGuide. Then I'm going to open the formatting manual, which I have up here as well. Nope, I don't have it up here as well. Let me get that open because we're going to need it. And this is a PDF with all the steps that the graduate school wants you to be using. And so you can kind of go through here, and they really have the different items kind of laid out. So if we wanted to know what was on the title page, we could click on this and it will take me down to the portion that is on that title page. And we'll use that and make sure that all the things that are correct on our templates. I'm just going to leave that at the top so we can use the table of contents a little bit. And then if you haven't looked at this is a good thing to kind of review before you even get started, if you so desire. I mean, it's a little bit of a dry reading, but there's a lot of good information in there of how you're supposed to set up your document. Okay, and then these next two are what you need to know from the graduate school. I think this is a great page. It just kind of helps you overview all the things that graduate school really wants you to know. So here's the master's requirements, here's the doctoral requirements. You can even get like a timeline. What are the steps in the defense timeline? Some other resources. We have a graduate writing center, university writing center, school deadlines, graduate school deadlines. All of this is good information. So feel free to dig around here and see what you need. One thing I do like to mention is that a lot of times they will have a boot camp that they're promoting, but I think that just really happens in the spring. So if you're really at the point where you're going to be graduating in December, you may not be here, or you may be here trying to get one of the things fixed. And we'll talk about that a bit, because sometimes you'll have some issues from the templates as you're building your own document and you're like, I cannot get this to work the way they want it to be. And I hope that we hit most of those today. But if you're going to still be around in the spring, you may want to look up for that boot camp. So feel free to kind of dig around for that. And then these are the thesis and dissertation forms, which I do have open here. I'm just going to click on that and it will get me here. And so this is what they will expect you to be using. Here's the formatting manual that we have open and been using. And here's the templates. Now, I really wish that they would kind of organize these in the way that you would be using them. Clearly, the front matter is the top of the document. The main text is kind of like the meat of the document where your chapters will be. And the back matter is what will be at the end. But alphabetically, this is how this lands. But I wish that they would kind of call template 1, template 2, template 3, and then you would have that document. Now, we will create a whole template from these. We'll build it together. But just before we leave here, let's look at these. These tutorials are actually tutorials from Microsoft. And so you can look on these and find that information if you needed to figure out what is happening. It doesn't really tell you what the graduate school really wants you to be doing, but it will help you identify how to change a page number and stuff like that. And we're going to talk about that as well, so don't get stressed. So go ahead and keep this around because we may use this quite a bit. I'm going to go ahead and get a new Word document so we can just kind of get into some basics. And I'll pull that over here so we can see that. I hope everybody is still seeing the Word document that I just opened. Does anybody need to ask any questions or? Okay, I'm going to keep going. So let us talk about some Word basics. This really is how I use my Word. Now, I'm sure not everybody sets up their Word like this. So let's talk about what I have set up. So I automatically have the ruler out, and you can find that under View, and I always keep the ruler checked. To me, that just is something helpful for myself so I can see where the tabs are and what is happening. And also here, the navigation pane is useful. This is what you would be using for your find, your if you would do Control F, it would open as well. And if I had something typed here, let's see, this paper is hard, then we could see, I could look for the word paper and it would find it for me. There it is. But it would do that throughout the document if I needed to. Now, I don't always leave that open because I just use that shortcut of the Control F, but that is something that I typically have. Also, on the home, you see these little icons, and it just shows you the formatting. So I typically leave that on. I can turn it off if I need it to, but I like to see what is happening. You can see the spaces with a little dot. You can see the end of a paragraph with this big symbol. You can see a tab with a little arrow. So all of that is there, and I can see what is happening. Because if it's off, then I think, why is my cursor way over there and not next to the period, you know? But if I turned it on, I could see why. I already had tabbed it, so I can get that out. So sometimes that is how I can kind of check for an error that I didn't know was even in the paper. And so then you can fix it because you can see it. But if that bothers you, you can always turn that off. And one other thing that I typically turn on is under File, under Options, then you have this little pop-up window. I hope y'all can see the pop-up. If you can't see that, you let me know. And then I'm going to look under, you can dig around in here and have everything set if you want. But really what I'm wanting to be talking about is proofing. So I like to have some of these items turned on. Specifically, I make sure that the spelling check as I type is on, grammar errors are notified as I type, confusing words. And then I really like the show readability statistics. Now, the first time you see that, you think, I don't really understand what that means. But as you use it more and more, then you can see, hey, I'm really writing a little bit better today, or I'm writing a little bit worse today. And you can get that to work for you. And so I always check that, and then I say, okay. And then to trigger that, under review, you can see the editor. I'm going to click on that. Now, I just have one sentence, so it's not going to really do a lot of information here for me. But if I had something misspelled here, maybe if I put in paper, it's going to be like, oh, what is happening? Then I can see what is one spelling that is wrong? And then it tells me what it is. Should it be paper or pepper or popper? And then I can just click and it will automatically fix it. The other thing is your stats will be down here. So I can click that. And since it's not very long, it won't have that. But maybe we can look at one other thing later as we're digging here. But a lot of times it will have, I'm going to cancel this. It will have the whole stats. It will tell you how many words are in here, how many paragraphs are in here, how many sentences are passive sentences, because we always want to be writing in an active voice. And some of that is down here. You can see how many words and how many pages. But I just kind of like that readability, and it helps you a little bit better. It'll measure your writing at this grade level, and as you move through using that tool, you can see how your writing improves a little bit, I think. And so that's what I like to use it for. Now, I don't always leave this panel open. I can close it again, but I know I can always turn that back on just by using this editor. The spelling and grammar are already set. And then here's your word count as well. So those are just some basics in Word that I think are all useful for everybody. And then let's go ahead and talk about our margins. So our margins are under the layout, and you can see with this little drop down menu, I can see all of the ones that I've used a lot lately. And I change my margins a lot, but in this, you're supposed to have the left is 1.5, and then everything else is a 1 inch. So I can click that and it will make everything that way. If that was not set up there, I can always do the custom margins, which is at the bottom of this drop down menu. And I can move this around. So if this was down to 1, I can just move that up to the 5 and say, okay, and it will apply. And now it has my margins setting where they are, and on the side as well. You can see the ruler over here as well. And so then you know that you're set to really be good. Now, our line spacing, a lot of times I usually set this to 6. And I'm not sure if they have a option of after in the manual. We could look that up. But also this little, I'm going to call that a doohickey. I don't know what it is. It's like a little square that has a little arrow, and it really just means we're going to pop out a new menu for you. You can see that currently this is set with multiple line spacing, so it's all over the place. But we know for our document, we need it to be double probably, and we can look that up. So I can change it to double or 1.5 or the single, because some areas will be single, some will be either 1.5 or double. So whichever you pick, I like double personally. So then I'll say okay. And so if we were to type something else, and look, there's the readability statistics, because we just got a little bit longer. So it says the words, the paragraphs, the sentences, passive sentences is down here, and then reading ease and grade level. We don't have enough here for it to really assess the grade level. So I'm going to say okay, and then I can type something else here. Okay, so that is just some basics in Word, and we may come back to this document, but we can go ahead and get our forms up and look at our manual. So I'm going to get us into the manual real quick, and then let us be, I think we're right here at the top. Yeah. And this is the most updated manual. And then it really just allows you to pick what we want to be looking at. And since we're going to create our own template, then we may want to look at the margins, the first thing, and we can see, oh, all pages must have these following margins. So we noticed that it was 1.5. That's what we just set in that Word document, and 1 inch on the top right and bottom margins. And specifically, do not use mirror margins. So let's kind of look at that again. There is an option there, but do not do that because they've asked you not to. So, and then let's see if we can see spacing. And I thought it was right here with the pagination, but maybe it's a little further down. So line spacing. I'm sorry, I know I will be scrolling a little bit for y'all, and that's so annoying as a observer, but I can't use the manual without scrolling around a bit. Oh, here's the line spacing. Okay. So the theses should be consistently spaced throughout, either with a double or 1.5 spacing between the lines. And sometimes this will be identified by your style guide, and we'll talk about style guides a little bit more in just a second. But however, everything here listed should be single spaced. So like table and figures, titles, centered and side margin subheadings of 2 or more lines, and then references should maintain regular text spacing between each instead of the double spacing. So that means like your bibliography will be single spaced, your titles should be single spaced. If they wrapped around, subheadings should be wrapped around, should be single spaced. Everything else should be pretty much double spaced. I think your title page is also single spaced. We can double check that as well. Okay, so now that we've kind of looked some of that up, let's go ahead and create our template so we can start working through some of the issues in those templates. And I'm just going to clean up some windows here so that we can get that going. And remember, we're going to use this website quite often. And it is from this page. If you kind of joined lately, we're on this word guide, and we're going to be using these thesis and dissertation forms. And that's what I have open up here. Okay, so then I'm going to download the front matter first. And I'm going to open that. I'm going to leave that other Word document open because we may use it for another reason. And then let's kind of just look at this document so that we know what we're doing. And it's really asking you to replace the text inside any kind of these kind of brackets, the more than and less than symbols. And so then you would just come in here and start the title of your work, whatever your thesis or dissertation will be titled. And it kind of gives you some more information there, like use consistent capitalization, first word only or all nouns, and then single space, all titles longer than one line, do not bold, it should be centered. Then you would change your name here. So you can say first name, last name, and then you would take out the brackets and have that information there. So let's kind of scoot down here a bit. This page is just your copyright page. One of the things I think they mention on the checklist is you can either have the copyright symbol or the copyright, the word here. And since the word is already here, just make sure you don't put the symbol here, and all you would do is change your first name and your last name and then take out the blue. So, okay, one of the first things that we could look at is let's go ahead and look at our margins, make sure that those are right. I'm sure they are on this template. I'm going to go ahead and look at the margin, and that's the one that we're using here. We can open it and it will be there as well. And then let's go ahead and look at our spacing as well and see what, because of this front matter, it should be single space, so that's okay. And then let's go ahead and pull in our other two pieces. I'm just going to get the main text, which is the next piece that we will be looking at. Actually, before we do that, let's kind of move through this document a little bit. And I'm going to turn on my formatting characters so you can see. So see, here's a section page break. And I think that is sometimes the issue that is happening with these templates, that not each template has a section break. And so we'll look at that as well. So we'll keep moving through here, and we should be getting close to the end of this. So what we need to do is now have our next section start, but we don't have a section break here. And so I think a lot of us have used like a page break, but maybe not a section break. And those are kind of laid out in two different places. You can see it here under breaks and click on that and see all of them. So I think some of us have probably used a page break, but maybe not a section break. So I want to make sure that my cursor is here, and then I'm going to do a next, and it should show us that we have now a section break here. That's also under, I think, under view, review, maybe references, maybe not, insert, it's under insert. So you also have a page break here, but sometimes I just like having all that drop down menu come up and you can see it there, so that you can do it under layout or under insert. So if you needed to know that. Okay, so we have the section break. So that means that this will be treated as one way, and this next section will be treated as another way, which that's what we want. And then I'm going to go and get the middle part, the main text. I'm going to download that. I'm going to open this. And now I'm going to actually just copy from the top to the bottom, all the way, highlighting that so that we get all the pieces that we need. And I'm going to say copy. And then I'm going to go back to the other Word document for my front matter. And I'm going to put it right here on the next page. And I'm going to put paste. Remember, we're doing Control C to Control V. So what we've just created now, we can see in here is that if we scoot back up to the front matter a little bit, that break, we have the front break, our page numbers are still right. Our chapters are supposed to start with numerical, Arabic numbers, not Roman numbers, and they're right. And then I'm just going to go ahead and do the last one as well. But what do we need to check for? Make sure we have a break at the end of this one. And then you would just have some examples sitting here that you could change out the data for that. See, we still don't have a break here. So I need to put my cursor here and insert another one. I'm just going to use that layout breaks again, do next page, and it will have a section break. And then we can get our back matter, which happens to be the first template listed. And I'm going to open this real quick and do the same kind of copy and paste. And that has some appendixes that you can utilize. And I'm going to put that back in my front matter. And I'm going to put my cursor here, and then I'm going to put paste. And so we can see that these numbers are not the same as what was over there, but it's because we left that continuously happening from the middle part, and it ended on 8. So it looks like we do need to have this changed to the next page. Should have had that section break there. Let's see here. Are we on the right one? Yeah. I'm just going to put that section break in there again, because we want this to be at the top of the new page. Okay, so I'm going to go back up here to the top. We've looked at our margins. We can see this is single spaced, but our middle part is double spaced when we get down here, or it may be 1.5. We can look that up together so we can see what this spacing is. And it's 1.5 lines, which that's fine, or you can change it to double if you want. And then let's kind of get into our manual and see if there's some other things here that we might want to talk about. We talked about our section pages, section breaks. Let's talk about page numbers now that we have different page numbers. Let's see, I think it says up here a bit. I'm going to scoot up here so we can read that part of the page pagination. So all page numbers should be in the same font and size as that is used for the text. Do not add dashes around the page numbers. All page numbers should be at the bottom of the page, centered and above the bottom margin. So it should be one inch from the bottom of the page. The title page should have no page number. The copyright page should have no page numbers. The front matter should start with Roman numerals, lowercase, double I. And the main text, that's the middle part, their chapters, should start with 1. So we know that we had started doing this, but let's just double check what we've got going on in our document. And now that this has been added to, I might go ahead and kind of scoot up here to the top. And I like to point out that I do not have the autosave on. And you may be working with the autosave on, and that is fine. I just personally like it to, this is kind of how I had always done it, and it seems to work for me. So now that I have the 3 pieces in this one document, I've added the middle part with our chapters, and I've added the bibliography down here at the end. I'm going to change this and click File, Save As, and then I'm going to change it to something that would be useful for me to know what this document is. So then I could go back to a front matter and download later if I needed to, or I could re-download that front matter if I needed to double check on something. but I'm just think I'm going to do example document here and do fall of 2022. And then I'm going to click save. And I'm going to look to see where it's going to put that. And I'm going to put it on my desktop. Now that's not the best filing. Y'all don't follow me on the filing. Y'all just look at what I'm doing with the Word, because I put too much on my desktop. So now let's kind of check out our page numbers that we just kind of learned about. So page numbers should not be on the title page. That's this page. Page number should not be on the copyright page. That's this page. Page number should be here on with a double I starting, and it is. And then we can keep going down to our chapters and see we're done with 6 VI, and chapter 1 should start with Arabic numbers, and it does. And so since it didn't say anything about the bibliography, then they should, all the other pages should be consecutive after that. And we can just double check that in here and see if there's anything. Yes, see consecutive Arabic numbers, and there's nothing else there about pagination. So we have all that working right for us now. And let's check that the page number is where it's supposed to be. So I can do that just by opening my example fall 2022 document and clicking on any of the page numbers is going to open that the header and the footer option. But what does it tell you right up here at the top? The footer from the bottom is 1 inch. So all the page numbers are 1 inch from the bottom. And then let's kind of just talk about our header. It's supposed to be a 1/2 inch from the top, and you can see it sitting here. And I'm going to go ahead and close this, and let's look at our manual and see what the header is supposed to look like. So let's see if we can find that in our list. Oh, here it is. It was right above the pagination. Sorry, I didn't realize that. So a running header is text that appears at the top of the document. So all theses and dissertations must have the following text in a running header starting on the acknowledgements page. And it should say Texas Tech University, comma, your name in italics, comma, and then the month and year that you're graduating. And then it should be a 1/2 inch from the top of the margin. And it must be right aligned and 1 point smaller in font size than the main text. So I hadn't really looked up what the main text is supposed to be. Let's see if we can find that real quick. I'll go back up to the top and see if we can find that real quick. Let's see, font, page layout. I'm sure that's page layout. Yeah, let's look in the page layout and see if it tells us. Oh, no, that doesn't really tell us. Maybe it's right here. Well, okay, maybe we can't find that real quick, but let's go ahead and look at our running header in our document, and we'll get that set up. So I'm just pulling up my example fall 2022, and then you can see again, here it is. I'm just going to double click on that gray area. Now I can type in there. So I'm just going to put my name in here, and my last name is Henry. And then I'm going to take out my name, and then I'm going to pretend like see, it's still italicized all the way to that. I might change that personally, make that not italicized, because it's just the space between, because we know that because of it's our format. And then I'm going to pretend like I'm going to graduate in next May. So I'm going to say May, and then it says the month and the year of graduation. So I'm going to pull all that out and say 2023. And so then now, if I just go to the header and footer area, I can use this close, and it will be running through all of my document that way. That did not work. Let's see what's happening. Oh, because they have different in the front matter and the chapter. So we would have to do that again because we have the section break. So let's just go ahead and do that real quick. And I'll do Cynthia Henry. And then again, May 2023. And then let's double check that. And let's make sure this one is also the right height. Yep. And then we'll be closed. So now from the top, remember the first two pages do not have that, but the acknowledgements page does have my information. And then if we scoot down to our first chapter at least, we can see that it does. Now, because we had that section break at the bibliography, I'm going to scoot down there real quick and make sure that that is appropriate as well. And it did go through, so that's good. Okay. And then let's see if we can figure out what that size of our text is supposed to be. We could probably look at our chapter and see what they're acknowledging. Okay, they're 12, and then this should be, let's see if this is 11, since it says it's 1. Oop, it is not. So that might be an issue with the template as well. Let's just double check that I have got that right. And it should be right aligned. It is, and 1 point smaller in font size than the main text document. Okay, so let's make sure that we were in the main text document. So let me get down to our chapters, because that's our main template. That's what they labeled it as, the chapters. So let's see what it says. It is 12, and let's see if this is. And it is, yes, it is 11. Okay, so to me, that means that that first one is just not right. So I would go back up to the top one and make sure I change that here. This should be, so that's one more error that we kind of found in the template. And so then this is correct. And then the one on the chapter was good. And since the bibliography is following this one, I think this would probably be good too. Yeah. So then I can close that. And we have our header set. So we're moving right along. Okay. So then let's kind of talk about our styles. That is something right up here at the top of the document. It's one of the first things it kind of talks about. So choosing a style guide is really how you're going to format the whole paper, your citations. Mostly people think about style guides relating to citations, but really a lot of the style guides also tell you how to set up, margins, or we used to double space after each sentence in APA, but now in the newest APA, they just want one space between the sentences. And so you would kind of look at those. Some standard ones are listed here, like MLA, Chicago, APA, or CBE. Now, CBE is mostly in the hard sciences, like chemistry. Chicago is a lot of times humanities or history. MLA also is English mostly, or any other language sometimes. And then APA is like social sciences. And I think is the standard across campus, unless your college has told you, oh, we're going to use this style. So if your professor in any class doesn't have a style picked out, you could use APA. But what it says here is you need to go to the style guide of whatever your department or committee chair has specified. And if they have not specified one, then, and it's not covered in there, then you have to use Turabians. Now, Turabians is just a format of Chicago. So Chicago came out first, and then Kate Turabian took the Chicago one and kind of made some updates to it. Now I had to use that in my program, and it is a lot different than what I've been using lately, which is mostly APA or MLA. And so I'd have to look this all back up. But so that is one of the first things you might want to check with your committee is what style guide you're going to be using, and then use that as you set up your paper as well, set up your document. Now, most of this is okay, but as you put in your citations, you would make that modifications. And then let's see if we can identify what the APA is, what the citation they are using down here. So it is not APA because APA puts the date at the front. It could be MLA, or it could be one of those that I'm not very familiar with, like CBE. So just realize that and make sure you're using, oh, it is formatted in MLA because MLA does stick it at the end, the date. And so, but that is one of the biggest things that is different. Also, MLA uses the whole name where APA only uses the initials of the first name. So whatever yours is, then you can use that one, and they even say that here. So also at this point, I kind of like to identify that if you haven't already started using a citation manager, and I'm talking about like EndNote or Mendeley or Zotero, this is a good time to kind of get that organized. Now, if you're one semester or less from writing your paper or finishing your thesis or dissertation, then maybe you don't really need that. But those tools, EndNote, Mendeley, Zotero, help you insert those citations into your document as you're writing the document. And so I would just think that that would be useful for you as you're building this paper. And now I have had a few people say that sometimes EndNote and this template don't work well together, but I could help you figure that out. There's only been a few students that come into my office saying, oh, I need help fixing that. And we were able to quickly fix that. I think Mendeley and Zotero do pretty well with the template. I haven't heard any complaints about that for sure, but that is something you might consider as well. But if you've been hand citing all of these and you're very close to graduating, like less than 6 weeks, you think you're going to graduate in December, then don't stop to learn that. Keep doing what you've been doing. You'll be okay. Okay, so then let's talk about our headings, because remember, our table of contents is built from our different headings. So it specifically says in here, let's go ahead and look that up in our guide here in our manual. We'll talk about our headings. Let's see if it's something up here. Looking for headings. Oh, headings. Let's look at the headings. Oh, and maybe we can look at that font too and see if that is right as well. I'm going to do that real quick and see. Oh, so it should be, all fonts should be at least 12 points, and Times New Roman or Calibri, and 10 points for any sans serif fonts like Arial or Calibri. I don't know how you would say that. So, but since I think the template is set up in Times New Roman, let's just double check that real quick. Yes, then that's, I would just leave it at that. It's already set, it's ready to go. Just keep using that. I know that's an older font that most of us probably don't type in anymore, but it's pretty easily publishable because it doesn't have a lot of they're called little tags on the letters, if you will, in the fonts. Okay, so then now let's go ahead and look at our headings. So here is our headings. Consult your department approved style guide for your heading formats. So APA will say something different than maybe MLA. So whatever your style guide is going to be using, that's what you should be looking at in that document. And every one of those documents, I can say for sure, has a whole book published out. And I would go ahead and get whatever book it is that you're going to be using, APA or MLA or CBE, and have that handy for you as you're building this document. It will save you a lot of grief, I think, and so it will be really good. So top level headings should include the section titles and the chapter titles. Each new chapter should start on its own page and should have chapter and the number on the line above the chapter title. So let's kind of talk about that and see what it looks like in our document. So I'm just going to open that again. Let's see if we can see that in the chapters. I don't know why that's highlighted. There we go. Get down to a chapter. So we should have a chapter here, chapter 1. This is the title of our chapter, and that should be heading 1. It looks like it is heading 1. I'm just going to put my cursor there and double check that. It is heading 1. And if I scoot down, oh, look, here's heading 2, heading 2. And then if I keep going, I have an example of heading 3, heading 3. But let's look here. And this doesn't have a chapter. It doesn't have a heading. So that's good, because we don't want this to be imported into our table of contents. So maybe let's look at our table of contents a little bit. So one problem that I do know that happens in this table of contents is this table of contents is labeled as heading 1, but it does not want, graduate school does not want this to be listed in this table of contents. And we can see that here on our document. Let's look at the table of contents again. And here we are. So it says all page divisions should be in there except the title page, the copyright page, and the table of contents itself. So if we were to run this, in fact, let's maybe see if I still have that for it, or I had, let's go ahead and get one. I'm going to grab it real quick. If we ran the front matter right now to update the table, so this is our new table of contents here, this new front matter. It doesn't say our example document. I'm going to go ahead and update this table of contents, and I'll show you what I mean. And I think this is why some people have a hard time making this table, this template work. So under references, you can say update table, and then it will either ask you update page numbers only or update the entire table. And I want to show you what's going to happen, because the table of contents is labeled as heading 1. It's going to actually put it in here. So we say, okay, and it put it in here. So we don't want that to happen. So we need to fix it in our real document. I'm just going to click back so we can keep this as an example, and then get back into my example, fall 2022. Just making sure everybody's kind of following along. Hope everybody was able to marry their front matter, their main text, and their back matter all into one document. I think it would be really helpful for you to kind of get this part identified, and then you can use this as your sample document as you move forward. So since it is labeled heading 1, we don't want it to be that. So I'm going to highlight that. And I'm going to actually look and see if there is one here that I should be using. I don't see that. Oh, as I move through there, it's going to change it all. So don't worry about that. I'm going to use the whole list and see if I can see something. So we have 1, 2, normal. No. So then now I need to get a style out, and I'm going to use that new menu kind of icon. Remember, it's just that little square with the arrow, and it just means I'm going to pop out the styles, and then we're going to pop them out over here. Did I click on it? Oh, sorry, it popped it out on my other page. Let me move that over here so you can see it. I hope everybody can see the styles menu. If you can't, let me know. We'll definitely make something happen. So it is identifying it as heading 1. but we know we don't want it to be heading 1. So I'm going to keep looking through here and see if I can find something else. They're alphabetical, and I'm really looking for a table of contents heading. So I'm going to look down in the T's. I'm going to scoot down a little bit, I think, so we can get down there faster. Okay. Oh, here we are. That's what I want. No, I don't want a TOA. I want the TOC, table of contents. So this is really what we want, although this is not really set up to be doing the way we want it to be. So I'm going to use this little drop down menu that if you highlight to the side, you can see it pop up. I'm going to drop that down, and then it's going to either allow me to modify that, or I'm going to update this TOC heading to match the section. And since it is in our template the way it should be looking, we just need it to be labeled something other than the heading 1 because we don't want it to be in the table of contents itself. I'm going to click update this heading to match what is already selected here. So it did that. And now when we click on this, we can see that it has this heading, and it is correct. It is New Times Roman, it's bold, it is here, it is centered. And so all of that is correct. All right, so then if we were to close, I'm just going to close the styles guide here, and we go back to our references and we do an update of this table. Even though we're in the example, I'm just going to go ahead and click that so we can see that. See, the table of contents is down here. Oh, that's not good. Let's see what happened there. Undo. Let's just double check that we got that to go the way it was supposed to. I'm going to have to get back over to review, sorry. No, references. Home, sorry. We need to check this. So this is table of contents, and we want it to be this. That's what it is. And let's just double check this. We're going to modify it and see. Oh, it is still based on heading 1. So we don't want it to be based on that because that's why it's still putting it into the table of contents. Let's see if we can see here. We're just going to make it be based on table of contents. I thought we would have that heading down here. Let's just double, but maybe it's at the top real quick. So we don't want that to be in the table of contents. So we want it to be something else. Oh, nope, that's TOA. I'm going to try that TOA though, because, or let's see if something else is not supposed to be there. Maybe even plain text. I want it to not be in the table of contents. I just, oh, no style. I'm going to try no style, see what we get there. And say, okay. Oh, okay, so we may have to modify some of that. It needs to be back to the table of contents. And then let's see if we can close this and then update it under references. I'm going to update the table and see if that keeps that out. It does. Okay, so I'm going to just go back one because I want us to keep this information here first. But we've now modified the table of contents so it won't list itself in there. And we may have to do that for a few other things. So let's go ahead and look and see what is happening. When we do update that, I see that this chapter 1 comes through, and we don't need the chapter 1 there. We just need it to be in the document. Our chapter should be here. So let's undo that. and look at our document again, we'll have to go down to the chapter to assess that. So let's see what we have here. So this should be our heading 1. It should include it into the table of contents, and it was updating it to that. And we'll look back at home and see that it is on heading 1. But I think this is also something that should not be there. So let's see if we can find it in the list. I don't see that. But then I'm going to pop out that style guide again and see, oh, it's labeled as a chapter heading. But then I'm going to open this and, oh, see, it's based on heading 1. Do you see that in that little pop-up? So I'm going to also modify that so it doesn't come in there. And I said plain text is what we used before. And we'll say, okay. Oh, but now we've got to make it all the right. It's got to be, because I didn't use I modified it before I said, okay, use this thing. So let me see if I can find the New Times, oh, got an extra there. Yeah, we want that. And we want it to be 12. We better check that. If why is that? The font size for that for chapter headings. So let's make sure we check that if it's not 12. It's supposed to be bold. It's supposed to be in the center. And let me just pull up this and the formatting manual, sorry. And let's see if we can find chapters in here. Maybe it's under here. Kind of looking to see if the font of the chapter is there. I was thinking it was one size bigger, but maybe that's it. I might even use our control thing and see chapter. So I don't see the font size yet. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Maybe that was on the checklist itself. Placement and table. No, that's it. Tables in the chapter. We're not really talking about tables yet, or figures. And that's appendices. Okay, maybe. One other place I will check is the front matter, the main text one that I have brought down, and it is actually at 14. So I think I would stay with that standardized. So in my document here, I would want this to now be 14. And we'll look on the checklist to see if that's where that is. So now if we go back up to our table of contents and update it, then we should see all of that happening. So we would have the acknowledgements, the abstract, the list of tables, the list of figures, our first chapter, our second chapter, and then any other headings. And so I'm going to go ahead and update that. So a lot of this will be removed because we don't have these examples, but we can always look at the front matter template again to see if we needed to identify anything else. So let's see what we get now. So now we do have table of contents, acknowledgements, abstracts, list of tables, list of figures. The table of contents isn't listed in here. We have our first chapter. We have our heading 2 subheadings and our heading 3 subheadings. Back to our heading 2. And so we have quite a few things here, and then our bibliography and appendixes. So we have those all set up. Now I could go ahead and get down to my chapter and change my chapter title 1 here in my real document, not there. And then once you change it down here, it will update up there. So introduction and heading 1, I'm going to leave all that. And again, it tells you if it's longer than 1 line, it should be single spaced here. And you would just highlight that area and make sure it's single spaced under home. And let's go ahead and look at that real quick, make sure it is single spaced. That's great. And I think I will just pretend to say introduction of example document. Let me just do that. And then I'm going to go ahead and take out those other parts. So then we should be right here. And now I'm going to go ahead and update the table of contents again, and we can see that that will all change around. Now I'm going to go ahead and update the entire document, the entire table of contents, because I want the letters to change here. If I just needed it to update the numbers, I could do the page numbers only. But if I change a title to the chapter or a subheading, I need to update the entire table. So I'm going to do that. And then we've labeled this chapter 1, introduction of example doc. And so then we're ready to keep going. So the thing here now is, remember, these page numbers are supposed to be lowercase. The Roman numerals are supposed to be lowercase, and Arabic are just regular. So I can fix this by just highlighting that number and then right-clicking on that and looking in the font area here. And it says that it's supposed to be caps all the way. Now, this part should be caps, but just this number should not. So I'm going to undo that. It changes it to the lowercase I, and then I'm going to say OK. Now everything is good there. Let me see if I can get that to unhighlight real quick. I just want y'all to be able to see that a little bit. I keep highlighting crap because it's in the table of contents. But anytime that I were to highlight something down here. Yep. Yeah. Okay, I can get it to unhighlight. Anytime I update the table, even if I just do the page numbers, it's going to put it back. Oh, no, it didn't this time. Okay, that's good. So let's see if we can get this to, because this is a kind of a fix of a fix. Let's see if I can fix this one and see if it will stay. I hadn't seen that. It seems to want to put it back. So if we did anything else with a chapter, I'm going to go down here and do something in the main text and say, I'm going to take out Melville's and just say Melville explanation, and then update the table. Anytime I do the entire table, it will change. If it just is updating the page numbers, it will not break that. Let me show you. I'll scoot up there so y'all can see when it happens. Yes, I had forgotten that. Okay, so I'm going to update the table. If I do this, it will not change these back to capitals. If I do the entire table, it will. And so now we're going to look to see that this gets removed and that's going to change. So what that tells me, it did update it, is that I would get all of my stuff done and just leave this broken until the very end, and then come in and do that quick fix to get the caps down. And then if you're just moving pages around, so the difference between if you actually edit the chapter titles or something along here title that's when you have to update the whole table. But if you're just, for whatever reason, moving something around, you would have to update the whole title, because then background may be ahead of who is the Scrivener. But if you're just realizing that this is saying that it starts on page 1 and it really now starts on page 2, then you can just update the pages. Does that kind of make sense to everybody? Okay, let's see if there's anything else that I kind of identified in these templates that kind of throws people off. The biggest things that I see that people get stuck on is the Roman numerals versus the Arabic page numbers, and we kind of tackled that just now. The table of contents, and because those headings were slightly off, and the chapter heading. I think now that we've fixed all those, I think you're pretty good to go. But I think we might look at our checklist real quick and see if there's something there that will trigger anything else. That the title page matches the template, that the title is not in bold, that the dean's representative is not listed, that the graduate dean's name is correct. You'd be surprised how many people misspell the dean's name. Oh, here's that. Either the copyright symbol is used or the word copyright, but do not use both. That page 1 is the first chapter of the first page of the first chapter. The running header starts on page 2. We've got that going. We've looked at this. We're using the same type in the main text. Oop, the running header is 1 point smaller, which we fixed. Yeah, and so it's either 1.5 or double. That is 2 times double. Let's see. I think we kind of covered most of these. So I think those are the ones that would trip you up the most. So that is really what I was going to do with the templates. Does anybody have any questions, or they're kind of fighting with one aspect right now in their document that they can't get fixed? We can troubleshoot together. Okay. And one last thing that I was going to point out is you can see this one is really doing the 2 dots is here for the spaces. So some people type with it's period space space, and some people type where it's period space. And so these are 2 spaces, it looks like, mostly. Oh, nope, this is 1. So a quick fix of this is using that find and replace. And so I'm just going to open my find and replace by using the Control F. And so if I know I'm looking for period space space, it's now going to highlight all of those. And so it's not consistent, but it is enough throughout that we might want to, because this one doesn't have it. That one does, that one does. Let's see if there must be one here, but clearly there's sentences that do not have 2 spaces. So now I could look under, I think it's under maybe view. Sometimes your fingers know where this stuff is and your brain doesn't. Let me think about that. It's usually just find and replace. What about layout? Maybe it's on home and I've just totally forgot it. Oh, it is. There you are. So then I can open this tool here. That's find is the same navigation there, but I could do the replace. And so then what I wanted to find was the dot period the dot period space space, sorry. And I want it to be replaced with period space. And then I can just go through the whole document and find that. And that might be something you might want to use if, for whatever reason, maybe you have been quoting Smith all the way through, and for whatever reason, you actually typed it SIMTH, and you just knew you needed to check that you got that name right all the way through the document, then you could use it here, and you would just look for, oh, I want to find this, and I want to replace it with this. And then you could find the next one, and it will let you do that, and then you can replace it. And we can even do that example here with what we were just looking at. And one space, and I'm going to find the next, and it found it, and I'm going to say replace. And so then it's going to let me I can replace all if I feel comfortable doing that, or I can just replace it as I move through the document. Okay. That one I know in APA. So if you're using APA, make sure you kind of get that going. And it really comes down to how you were taught to type. So if you were taught to type with a period space, then that might be something you need to address. I think different typing classes teach you different ways. So just be aware of that. Okay, well, I didn't get any chats or anybody to ask a question. So that's really what I wanted to talk about in these templates. And then I thought we might now look at how to use track changes in Word. So I'm going to completely shift over to another document unless anybody had a question here.
I did just have a question. I have trouble with tables, formatting different tables. And then I have I have a couple in chapter 2 and a couple in chapter 3, and I have a hard time making that list of tables.
Making this list of tables.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let's kind of tackle that. I haven't really looked at much of this, so I'm going to get back into my formatting, and then I'm going to bring up the tables and I'm going to read what it tells me to read about the tables. So it says list of tables required if more than 2 tables. And I heard you had some in one table, some in one chapter, and some in another chapter. So it sounds like you have at least 3. So each of the following items must be considered when formatting the list of tables. The section should have the list of tables. Yep, that's what we're doing. Line spacing within the titles. If it has 2 or more lines, it's single, but if it's just 1 line, it'll be regular spacing. Consistency with the text. So wording and capitalization of the titles. Avoid repetition. Do not repeat the word table in the list. Table titles should be unique. So they don't want you to say like table 1, table 2, I think. Leader lines. Okay, those are those little dots. I'll point them back out and just like we were seeing in the chapter, the contents, table of contents, sorry. If leader lines were used in the table of contents and they have to be in this document, they must be used in that. To use automated list of tables function in your word processing software, be sure you have it set to meet the above requirements and edit that. So were you using the automated function, or were you just trying to do it yourself?
I was using the automated function, and it makes things very difficult.
Okay, so maybe the automation is what we need to look at. Now you might need to help me a little bit. I have not done that. So maybe that's under layout.
Let me double check. It is in, I have my Word document.
Maybe it's under references. Table, yeah, insert table of figures. And we want to list the tables. Insert index, insert table of authorities.
To insert the table of context, table of figures, or it is in references, but then I have a hard time creating my own. They all come out kind of, I don't know, like it just doesn't seem like it looks organized.
Okay. Okay, so let's see if we can figure, if we think it's this table of figures or, a list of tables. I'm going to click on this and see what it gives me. Okay, figures. Oh, table of authorities. What is that? Is it going to let me click on the different tabs? I don't think so. So this is figures. Options. And if we're going to modify this. Okay. We might have to look at that ourselves. Let's see, because I don't see a list of tables. I wonder if I could Google that real quick and see what it comes up. List of tables in Word. See if we get anything. Yeah, let's see what that says. Oh, I don't want to do that. Yes, okay. So reference table of figures in the caption, okay, and then table of figures. That's where I was at. But you're right, it's a little confusing in there, isn't it? I think it should be one of these other tabs, but it's not gonna let me. And here's the leaders, so that's right. Show page numbers, right align page numbers. We don't want that because we know we want it in the middle. What if oh, here we are. That's what we needed to do. So we need to have this.
Okay.
Set up a caption label. And I wonder, I don't know if this template actually has that. And so we would see it is 12 is Times New Roman. So that seems like it's all set up what we were supposed to. Oh, we don't want the right align page numbers for sure. So let's see what happens when we include label and number. Yeah, okay. Let's see what happens if we use this. If it did it. I'm gonna have to get back up to where it was. Figures. This to tables. I'm just looking around to make sure it didn't do it someplace else that I didn't expect that. I'm gonna change something. So it does have the tables here and it has the numbers. I'm gonna change something so I can know that. No, not here in my table. So let me scoot down to our middle of our document. Remember, we're going to look at this table. So description of office workers. I'm going to say workers. And then I'm going to go up here and update that table list and see if it does it for me. So I wonder, I don't want this to happen. Show page numbers. And show table. And then what's under options? We didn't look at that. Okay. And then the modifier. I think this is all good. I'm going to say okay again and see what happens. Now, do you want to replace the selected table of figures? I'm going to say no, so I don't totally destroy this here. Interesting. And let's see what it's doing up here now. It is not pulling that through. That is interesting. We'd have to see that. You might even be easier to type it. I know that would be so nice too. So we would have to see what this is. Remember, we're going to have to see, it should be a heading 1 because it should be in the table of contents. These should not be a heading of 1 because we don't want them individually in the table of contents. And then let's see what that table was identified as. Maybe that was what the problem was too. Let's see, that's a figure. Let me see if I can find the table we were looking at. What is this identified as? I'm gonna kind of look around and see if I can see that. Okay. So I'm not sure what it is identified as. So I'm gonna pop out that style again. And it is a figure title, which I think is good, but I wonder if we can make a table title because then you would have a list of figures. Were you having a problem where they were kind of getting intertwined?
Yes, the list of figures and list of tables. There's like you can't like differentiate between the two.
So that is a similar situation in which we've been kind of addressing in the chapter title that we said chapter 1, and we had to make it a chapter heading or even the table of contents. We need to create a table title here. So I think I really should highlight what I want to label as the table title here and then click this. But I'm going to look at that and see. So now I've added this. I would want to clean that up a little bit and see if I can say that's a table title. And then I'm going to clear this out. here. And then now we have a table title and a figures title, table of figures and a table title. Maybe that is what, or maybe we need to make a table of. And we could just grab something else too, that we're not using. And make it that. I just want to make sure that that's not causing a different title there. So let's, I'm gonna now update that list and see if that brings that over as a table title. So I gotta go back to my references. Let's go up there so we can see what it looks like in the list. We should be in the tables list. And insert here, but we're gonna say that it's the table. We're not gonna have the right page numbers. I'm gonna say, okay, and what happened here? It's asking me to, do you want to replace this? Like, nope, I don't. And then let's see what is happening there. I think that's really what our issue is there, but we'd have to take the time to do that. Let me go ahead and let's look at our track changes. And then at the end, Serena, if we still have time, we can kind of play around with that and identify what is the sure heading that we need to be using. And then I think it would allow us to update that.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay. All right. Anybody else having an issue? Okay, so now I'm just going to get back on our guide that we have been using, and I'm going to download this Basset Hounds. And so 2 of my colleagues helped me create this document because we're going to identify how to use the track changes. And so you can see that Kimberly Vardaman was in here and Jenny Jacobs. And so really how we would use these track changes as we're using it for thesis and dissertation, we would probably write the document ourselves, right? And then we would send it to the chair of the committee or potentially the whole committee. And we're going to pretend like Kimberly is our chair. And then Jenny Jacobs is just a committee member. And then we want to look and see what those 2 people are saying and what items are listed here. So as we can just see this, let me just quickly tell you, I just copied this from Wikipedia so that we could be talking about something here and making some changes. And let's go ahead and get under our review. Before I do that, I'm actually going to turn the show icons off because I think it will be easier for you to understand without that on it. So you can see the clean document once we get there. And then the track changes is under the review tab over in this area. So we're going to be looking at the tracking area, the changes area, and then comments. So these 2 items out here, or several items out here, these 3 boxes are really comments. And so, and they're related to track changes as well. So in this document, I have already turned on the track changes and sent that to my committee members, and they have edited some things. And you can see that they, one person is identified as one color, another person is identified as another color, and that kind of helps you when you get 3 to 5 people in here editing something. Right now we have all the markup showing, but I can use this drop down menu to see just the simple markup. And you can see that now it's what they have wanted it to be. This would be like, if I accepted all the changes, it would look like this document. I can still see that there are issues here out to the side. Anytime you see a line over here to the side, you can see that. And you'll know that. The other thing is I can see the no markup, and that's exactly what it would look like without any comments and any simple markup showing. So if I accepted everything, it would look exactly like this. And then I can also see the original before I send it to anybody. So let's kind of look at the all markup to what was original, so you can see the difference. And then no markup, you'll see changes in the document. And so those are the 4 things there. I'm going to go back to our all markup so we can see that happening. And I'm going to show you that we have track changes on, because it will even track my own changes. And I'm just going to say, instead of just description, I'm going to say description of Bassets. I don't know about y'all. I just love Bassets. That's why I chose this. I had a Basset and I have a half Basset now. He's half Basset, half Lab. But so that's what we're looking at here. So now I'm identified as the red track changes. Now, if I toggle this again, it will stop tracking the changes, but I don't want to do that just yet. But let's go ahead and say we're going to look at these. So I'm going to put my cursor at the top of the paper that I'm going to start looking at changes for. And I'm going to either say accept if I want to, or reject if I want to, or I can use this drop down toggle and I can say accept and move to the next one. Or if I've used this drop down toggle and saw that the simple markup or the no markup look fine, then I could do the accept all changes. Or I can also do accept all changes and stop tracking if that's what I wanted. But so that we can see how that might look, I'm going to use the accept and move to the next track changes. So I'm going to go ahead and say accept. So it's highlighting. I'm going to say accept and move to the next one. So that has now been cleared. That will not be tracked again because I've accepted that we're going to change it to descriptions of assets. But I'm just going to keep going to the next one so we can get down into this next paragraph. And so we're kind of highlighting this little dot. This is what's helpful so that if people are putting in commas or periods, you can see those as you're moving through there. And so I think this was Jenny that said that she didn't want it hyphened. She just wanted it spaced. So we're going to say, okay. And then we're going to say, yeah, we're going to go with that change. And then now we're down to the next paragraph. So then you can see everything up above is that first paragraph, and the titles are all accepted, and that's how they're going to be. And then we can see some comments that people made, and you can just make a new comment. You can reply to this comment. So under this, she's kind of saying that, oh, I'm concerned about this sentence. Did you get that from somewhere? And Kimberly and Jenny were very nice and said things that would be applicable to thesis and dissertations. And so she's like, oh, I think you need to cite Randy Fredrickson and maybe 2018 in your lit review, because maybe I haven't done that yet. And so I can reply to this just by clicking on this reply and say, oh, Kimberly, thank you for catching that. I will cite it right now. And then I can post it. So that when I send this copy back, Kimberly can check her own comments and say, oh, Cynthia identified that, okay, yeah, she's going to make that correction. Let's see if that correction has been made in the lit review. And then we can do that. I could cite it right here if I needed to, or back up in the lit review, wherever it was. And to post that, I just say, oh, post it, and I'll push enter. Kimberly, thanks for finding this, and I can say post it, and then you'll see that my name is there as well, and then she can reply back to me if need be, so we can keep that conversation right in the same document. So I think that really helps a lot, instead of like people kind of making notes in an email or on another page, and then you're trying to get it into the document. It's all right there, and then you can just at the end, if you realize I've done this, I can accept the change and move on, and it will take out the comment as well. So I'm going to do that right now so you can see that. So I'm going to say, okay, and then it did it, and then it's highlighting that item in the document itself, and then it will do that. And let's see, maybe because I haven't accepted all, I may need to not show comments, or look at the markup. No, look at the simple markup. It's still there. So I guess that would just be once we accepted all changes, it will take the comment out. But that is really good to have that. And So down here, we can see, let's go back to the all markup. And that's where I kind of live most of the time is that. And so you can see if somebody took out a word, you can see the delete and then what they added. And so since she took out the space in front of friendly, then we really don't have a space here. So you can see that when we do the no markup, whoop, we don't really have a space here. So for me to fix that on the all markup, I would just go ahead and put the space back in, and then it would be acceptable. I could accept this change, move to the next, accept a social, and move to the next. Oh, and I didn't get my space because I put it after my space, so I could say accept this item. And so then that's all set too. So that's how you really would work with this. If you got a document back, I would just live in the all markup, start at the top of the document and go through there, seeing if there's anything that needs to be accepted or rejected. You can immediately reject something too. I'm just going to put it at the front of this one, and I could say, oh no, I don't really want that. I'm going to reject that change and move on to the next. So then it was gone. Now, I do think if you're really working that with your committee, you probably will need to make a note of why you say, oh. So I might even just say, oh, I'm going to make a new comment here on this and said, hey, Kimberly, I saw that you added this, but I think this, and then explain why you chose not to accept that. So that's how you would kind of work with a document with track changes. And you can always turn off the track changes just for me or for everyone. And I'm going to do that real quick. And then I'm just going to go ahead and highlight the whole thing and say accept all the changes. And then we would look at the no markup. We'd be good here. And let's just maybe do that one more time. Clean up. And then if you were just going to say this back to somebody else or submit it, you could do that. And if you're really concerned about any of that, even if once you get it all there, you can just copy this into a new document if you needed to, and then it would have none of the comments. But you could just, if we go back to the all markup, it's going to show the comments. You can say, let's see, delete this thread, resolve this thread. Once you resolved it, it moves it out. Okay, so that's how you would kind of use these. Did anybody have any question about track changes and how to look at that, or?
Well, I think it's very useful, and I'm going to start really using some of the suggestions, and because honestly, it would have made my writing so much simpler. So thank you for this. I really appreciate it.
Oh,
But I really like the track the changes. That's good. And that's good for referencing other items as well. So I really like that.
yeah, good. And yeah, and so I think a lot of people will think that that is useful. And I know I collaborate a lot more as I've moved through my academic career, right? And so the more you collaborate, the more likely this is going to be useful. I don't know how many of y'all use like Google Docs, and you can kind of see the similarities between those two.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I think we have a question here. We have to delete each comment. It's not that you're deleting each comment, it is that you're resolving that. So you can resolve that and it will still redo that. I don't think you have to delete each one, because if you are not showing the markup, it will not be there. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I see the comment in the chat. It said, I tried to delete all the comments, but I could not. It's not related to track changes. It's a little related to track changes because I mean, you're right. If you don't have any changes in there, you can write a comment. But I think you can, but it will also in the no markup, remove all that out for you. Okay, Van, I think is how you would say that. And then the only other thing that we might want to tackle is back on our page here. I would appreciate it if y'all could do the evaluation. I would really, you just click on that and then fill out a little information there. It's mostly filled out. You just have to do the last two unless you want to include more information. And I'll just drop this directly into chat so that you don't even have to go through that. And then I think I'm going to go ahead and try to tackle Serena's problem. You're more than welcome to hang out, or if not, we've kind of wrapped up what we're going to learn today, unless anybody else has another question. Okay, so I'm going to get back into our example full, and I'm going to see what I can do with this table. Now I've kind of made a mess of this table, so I might get a clean front matter and see what is happening there. And see if I can, oh, but it won't have a table. So let's see what we can do here. I'm going to back up a couple times now that I know a little bit and see if that will help us. Kind of, I'm going to see if I can go back to, yeah. And there, I took all that out. Let's see what's happening here. All right, let's see if we can get this to go now. Home. And I want to identify these tables. I want to change their headings to make it a list of tables. So I'm going to look through the document and find the tables and do that real quick and see if we can change that table. That's a figure. There's a table. So we had identified this, and I think the whole thing should be identified. And let's see if we can see that. I'm going to pop that open and see we have a figure title. But I'm going to look and say list of tables. So I see list 1, 2, 3, 4 bullets, continued numbers. And now I wonder what that table title is. Well, it is based on the figure title. Table of figures. And let's see, it's based on normal. Okay, I'm going to still use this and modify that. I'm going to make it match this by using that drop down again that we had done before. But now I'm going to also open it and modify it and base this on, maybe the figure title is okay if we make the figure title the, you know, what it's supposed to be as well. So let me see if we can leave that there. And we didn't even have this table up in the figures. Let me see if I have another example here. I think I started at table 2 in the front matter, but that just may be because that is all that they had. So I'm going to kind of quickly use this real quick. And the style should be here now. Maybe I don't see it. Maybe I'll look over here again, table title. Whoop, what happened there? No, we want to go to table title. Table title. Interesting. Now it's moved it. Okay, so we go to table. Table title. I'm going to look and see why that is moving around. I think that is not what it's supposed to be. Let's see what this table says. It does have a paragraph here. I wonder why that one did that. We'll have to look and see. It must be something that is in the, let's see if we can use this. Okay, that one seemed to do okay. Let's see if this, wait, maybe I will not go out past the space because I wonder if this is causing that, because look at this little line over here. So let's see, and I'm going to do table title again here. I did kind of pull it around. I do think it's probably this that's causing that. So I think I will take that out and see what happens now. No, so this should be moved back over to the front area. I'm gonna put it back. Oh, it is on the side. And it is using the table title. And why is it over there? I can see what is happening, Serena. It's a little bit crazy in here, isn't it? All
Yeah,
right.
I don't know why it's like that.
Yeah, let's see if I can pull that back over here. I wonder if it just needs an extra space between the table for the moment. Oh, there's a section break here. That's what the problem is. So I see that section break because I have my formatting. I think that section break should not be here. I'm going to take that out. Oop, I took too much out. Let me undo that. So I'm going to take one more out. It takes the whole table out. That's a little crazy. So let me go back and have it sitting in the center again. And then see if I can take this out, but not the table out. And it moved it below it. No, it just deleted that. That's interesting. It's like it's the next thing. I think that is an issue with this here. So I would want to move this below that table is what the problem is with this template. I'll just add a little bit of here and see if that doesn't make it better. Now I'm going to relabel that like we had wanted to label it as a table. Let's see, it's down here. Table title. Still moves it over because I think they've got this set up wrong. I would look and see what this table looks like here. Oh, there's an extra little, look. So this spacing, I mean to tell you, every little thing has to be exactly right. So I'm going to go back and see if this spacing is not there, which I don't see that it is. So I'm going to add it. And maybe I will add it here and then do spacing. And they had it at 6 and 6 on the other one. I don't know if that's correct or not. And that is what is happening. So let me go ahead and take some of these spaces out. But I think that's what is causing that issue there. And so that we'd almost need to move this down a little bit and see if that didn't help fix that, because that section break should not be there. And let's see if we take this. I think we're just gonna, okay, I'm going to copy this table and see if I can't get that section break out and then replace it. So then now we're actually going to put that back over there and insert this table again here. Now this should be down below here. Because this would be a new chapter. Every chapter is supposed to have a new page. Yes. So then now I would, yeah, okay, that's what we would want to do. Let's see if we can make it happen. It's a little crazy. So right here, this chapter really needs to be cleaned up because it's not the chapter heading that we have been using, or it is what it thinks it is. But remember, it's supposed to be what we had up above. I will just here put a new break under layouts and then put a new page, new section. I think I might use a new page here because it's not really a new section. See if that doesn't clean up that. We would have to fix this heading. And then we could fix this, I think. Oh, I think I just, oh, well, no, I still have that section here. This needs to be taken out. But then we could, we're keeping that other one on the other page. Nope, that page break did not move with it. Maybe that's what the template is wrong here. And so we would need to copy that. Sorry, I'm making a mess out of this. People, if y'all don't want to watch, I understand. I'm gonna cut that again. So we need that page break to be here. I'm gonna actually use the section break now, see if that makes the difference. And I think that's what they were trying to do as well. But then we need the table here. I may have lost the table. Well, I technically have the table, but it's not filled in anymore. Interesting. Because this is the section page that. Because most likely you would not have a table at the end of a section. Serena, are you having that issue? I would think you would have some text below the table, which would not cause this. So this, I do think this is problematic here, that this table should be sitting here that we see.
Yeah, I'm
And
not having that issue where
yeah,
my table's in the middle of
it's
text.
just that you're having the alignment. Okay, so then that's what we're going to do here. We're going to take this out real quick so we can just see the list update, and maybe that will make it a little bit cleaner for us. Okay, let's see if we can get back up here and get this list to update. And now that I've identified those two, the list of tables, we want to make sure we're under the references. We want to go table of figures. Oh, it may not let me do that while I have that open. I'm going to go ahead and close that. List of tables. We're really saying that's a table. From the template. And we're not going to show the right page line. We're going to have the leaders. We're going to include a label and a number. And then let's see if this will update. Let's see, we have some options. We're going to kind of look around in here for a second. Body of text, chapter heading, that's interesting. Oh, table, I bet you that's what we need to have. We need table title here. And I'm not sure what this F is. Table identifier. We'll look at that and see if we say, okay, now we're going to say, okay, and see what happens here. I'm going to say, you want to replace the selected table of figures? I think yes. I don't know why it's crazy there. Let's see what the figures looks like now. We want the table. Nope, it didn't update this. But if they didn't enter this using that, and it's really typed up, this is never going to be updated. So I think it would have to be, maybe we should do that from a front, a clean copy. I'm going to steal what they have in here and see if that doesn't make that work. I don't know if that would have enough information to do it. Because if this is just really not used from that, if they are building those by hand and it's not building from the list of tables, I don't think that that will ever update appropriately. But I think if you were in a document that you were updating, let's see if we see what happened here. Look, it put that together in a list. It just put it here in the wrong spot.
Hmm.
Interesting. And I wonder if that was where I had my cursor. I'm gonna put my cursor right here and see what happens now. And then we can do that. Again, that right align has always got to be off. We want to use table. We want to use options, because I think we need to find that table title here. We say okay. We say okay. Now let's see what happens here now. Say yes. Nope, I put it right back down in this spot, not up where we thought it should be. That is fascinating. Serena, can I play around with that and then reach back out with you?
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure. And if you want, you can send me your document too, and I can kind of tweak around with it. And we would just save it as something else if I got that to work.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure. And does anybody else, we're right at the end here. Does anybody else have something that they're really having an issue with that we want to kind of try to resolve? Okay, well, thanks everybody for joining. And if you have a moment, oh, not yet. Oh, okay, good. All right. And if you have had a chance to fill this in, I would really appreciate it. And that link is here on this page as well. So if you need that, you're welcome, everybody. Y'all have a good afternoon. Oh, did somebody want to say something?
No, I just said thank you.
Oh, sure. You're welcome. Okay, guys, I'm going to stop recording and then I will stop